the roots get clogged, and then you'll see these trees fall because they're not grabbing onto anything anymore. You're giving it a little bit of a breath. Now I don't want to get too farther into the bush because it's going to be harder to pull it out. This is nice clear here, easy for me to work. We've got a root here coming out of this jack pine. It's right here. I can tell it's jack pine because as I scratch it, it comes off reddish in color. If it came off green, I would know I'm in poplar country, and I don't want a poplar root, so I want a root that looks like this. And that's the right size. It's about the size of my thumb to the size of this finger. Between this finger and that finger, anywhere there is good. Anything smaller, then I have to get closer to the tree where it's bigger. You get an old axe, preferably not a new axe, because I'm going to be chopping into the ground, which is sacrilegious in my books. But I'll try and make it so you can see what I'm doing. Getting all the materials is not a fast process. Look at that, beautiful. So what happens here, this root is stopping this root from going any further. This is a good root. I'll work on this root a little later. Right now, I got to untwine this one so I can continue with it. Now people say, aren't you hurting the tree? I'm actually thinning out the root system that tends to get clogged with itself. And it's not harming the tree. I've been harvesting some trees for 40 years now, and they're fine. I just make sure that I harvest them in succession. I don't do the same one every year, right? So this is going to lead us back to another big one. And this one's crossed by poplar roots. Poplar roots break really, really easy. But if you hit another root like this, not so easy. So I got another Y right here. I'm going to cut that Y back here so I'm not pulling out two roots at a time. I do want this, so I'll remember that one. Yeah, hold on to that, pull. Pull. Very, 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 very strong. This is not the same fibers as the whole tree. These are lengthy fibers. They're the fibers that go the full length of the root from beginning to end, and they're intertwined with one another. And so you don't get the same kind of cellular fibers like you would have in a tree that makes wood. Wood breaks really easy. Wood can be cut very easily. Wood does not have tensile strength. This has tensile strength, meaning that I can pull it, it's not going to break. Even bending it is very difficult to make it break. What's nice about this too is I can let it dry, to bone dry, and then leave it in my garage. In the middle of winter, if I want to make a basket, pull out, put it in hot water, bada bing, bada boom, I'm ready to rock and roll again. I can make stuff at Festival in the middle of winter. So this is really nice. This is enough to make probably half a basket. Okay, these things here, I call these nodules. They're just an extension of the root system. They're going to come off later on when we actually split this in two. It's best to split if you can, like right away, rather than in November or in January. If you split it right away, you're going to be much easier to do. So my fingers act like a cam on the root, and they also gauge for me the thickness of the material on the left-hand side or the right-hand side. So as I pull it down the root, I'm pulling with my thumbs, but I'm camming with my fingers. It's a two-action thing here. And what I'm feeling is, as it comes too thick on one side or the other, I stop on the side that's thin, and I pull harder on the side that's heavy. So this was a little heavy, so I pulled a little heavier on that side. And after a while, you can do it without even looking at it. You just, it's all by feel. If you look at it, your mind will throw you off, and it won't go the right way that you want it to. So I'm relying more on my fingers and the thickness of my fingers are indicating that the root is. I've got too thick on that side, so I'll pull it too thick on this side, and it goes back and forth all the way down that you get that thickness on either side. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but the whole root twisted on me because the fibers of the root twisted as well. So my splitting that I'm doing is following that twist, and it'll sometimes go right around in a spiral, but I'm ending up with one long piece of fibrous material rather than cutting through. Like a lot of people think you take a knife and cut it. If you do that, you're not going to have any strength. There we go. Now, I know if you've never done this before, it's not as easy as it looks. Okay, so there you go. You got two pieces now. Okay, what are you going to do now? I'm not going to do this with everybody. I'm just going to show you how this works. This can just come off now. Beautiful. Now that doesn't happen in January. In January, you have to scrape it off. In fact, I prefer to split this like this and do this immediately with all my bark. Now this is still too thick, this piece here, for lacing. I would have to split this again. I'll do a demo on that, but what I'm doing is just a little bit of a sliver into that. You see that? I'll give you a better look in a second. So what I've done is I've split it again. And now this piece that's coming off is much more pliable. And I wanted to keep this side the exact same thickness all the way through. This side is going to vary as it goes. So I don't really care what this thickness is. I'm gauging this side as I go. Yeah, this is the side with the round part on it. That's really important. That's the side that is going to go through your sewing, whatever it is that you're doing, and it's not going to fray off. This that I'm cutting out here right now is going to fray. A lot of people say, why don't you save this part? You can't. It's no good because it'll fray as soon as you try and tie something up. It has strength, but the strength is limited. And if you tied a canoe up with it, the whole canoe would just fray apart in a very short order. Same with the basket. The skin is useless. It burns really nice when it dries. So you can see what's happening here. It went down to one side only. Okay, there we go, went down to nothing. And that tells me that I'm down to a spot that is exactly the same thickness all the way. So I feel over here, and then I come to another thick spot, and I just do it again here. It's because I want to have it the same thickness all the way through. So just a little bit of a cut, like so. And now I can peel again. There you go. Look at that. Okay. And you're going to get a beautiful piece of sewing material. Nature provides you with a needle with the material that you're using here right now, and I'll show you that in a second. Okay, so I take my knife again, and guess what I have? I got a needle. So now I have a usable piece of material that can sew up just strong, very, very strong. Okay, I'm not joking. I'm really pulling there. I get kids to do tug of wars at Festival all the time with this stuff, and they pull each other across the room with it. You know, and then you get the dad. Oh, I can do it, and he can't do it either. It's kind of funny. Okay, and what's neat about it? Look at this. I can tie this up. It's so malleable. You can tie a knot with it, make it into a pretzel, whatever you want to do, and there you have a finished piece that's ready to sew up a basket. Done. Done deal. I can split that one more time if I want to make it even thinner, if I had to get into a really tight spot. So here's the skin that's come off. Beautiful, hey? Look at that. These are beautiful roots that we have here. They came off of a jack pine. I'm pretty sure they're off a jack pine because we have a white spruce here and a jack pine here. Jack pine usually has this really red bark. You can also go into the swamp to get black spruce roots, which is quite common because it's much easier to pull out roots in the swamp than it is here. However, you're dealing with all the bugs that come along with the swamp. Your call. I mean, I'd like this better. I'm a lot drier and a lot less bothered. You're waterproofing it with spruce gum, and I mix it with bear fat, and I can waterproof any birch bark basket or any canoe. So it's another thing we collect here from the building supplies of the woods. So right here, you can see that the tree is bleeding, so to speak. And here, this is pine sap, and that is what amber is made out of, which is, if I boil this down and got all the impurities out of it, I would have rock hard amber. With that amber, I will mix in bear grease or bear fat, and that bear fat will, just at the right mixture, will make it into supple enough material that I can use it to waterproof a canoe, waterproof a wigwam, or waterproof a basket, whatever it is that you need to do. And it works really, really well. And it's kind of nice to chew as well. But this one here is really, really hard, so it's been there for a while. But I've seen pieces that are as big as my fist come out of a tree, and I collect that and then render it down and make it into waterproofing. And you can use it to sew together anything that's going to require to be held static. When we get to a situation like this, these are very malleable, so I just pass that one underneath it, pull it through, and then cut that. There we go. A lot quicker production here. Now, how strong is this stuff? We can put a canoe together and make it paddle across Canada. Thank you, tree. Yeah. Thank you for that. I'll be back. So, my trees did it again for me.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. Thank you to the trees, yes. Yes, thank you to the trees. You know, by doing this and gathering these roots and getting the birch bark and showing you what the sap was, you get an appreciation of the attachment to the land, to the trees, to the whole ecological roundness that we have here. This is the roots. This is where you're at. This is the roots of your existence. Thousands of years ago, people did this. They did this to survive. We're doing it for fun. We're doing it for learning purposes. But you can imagine a person coming out here with their bag of pemmican, maybe a container of water, pulling roots all day because they had to. They had to get this done. This is something that they needed to do in order to survive. I don't have to do this to survive, but I do this to make sure other people know that other people did this to survive. That's what I'm talking about. Now that didn't take too long, did it?